Hey, good morning, y'all. Welcome to A Wholesome Soul. I wanted to talk a little bit this morning about vulnerability and how I discovered that that was really what was missing in my life. When I first started to look inside and wonder what else could be possible for me, how could I live an authentic life, I realized that a lack of vulnerability was a big problem for me. Now, I didn't get there overnight to the place of invulnerability, and I wasn't born that way. I was born being ready to be loved and ready to give love openly and beautifully. And it was really through a series of life events as an adult, from maybe 19 on up to maybe 50 years old, a series of life events that really shaped who I was, and not in a good way. I was emotionally just acting like I was present, but I was really closed off. I wasn't in the moment. I wasn't having any real relationships. I had been lied to and let down. I had been abandoned emotionally and physically. I was a single mom for a really long time, and I was doing anything I could just to cope and just to get by and just to survive, really. I didn't know that I was closed off. But I did retreat emotionally. I built walls around my heart. That was what was safe for me. I became a version of me that I grew to dislike over the years. I was really a chameleon. I became adaptive to any situation and any person that was in my life. I wanted to be liked and I wanted to be accepted, and I didn't like what I had already been through. And I thought, well, if I can just be a chameleon and become who I'm around, then I'll fit in and it'll be okay. And even if it's not me, I can act like it's me. And that's not healthy. That was really acting from my ego place instead of from my true self. I really was letting my ego drive my life and directing everything that I did. And when you say ego, that just means the self that you show to the world, okay? It's not your true self. It's not the person in the back seat that's telling this person where to go. The person in the back seat is the real you. That's your soul. And that's who you really, really are. And that's who I wasn't being. I didn't even recognize this in myself for a really, really long time. I was just acting and reacting from a place of protection, a place of safety, I thought, by putting up walls around my heart and really having safe interactions with people. I wasn't going deep with any relationship or any conversation that I was having. I was keeping it light and I was keeping it easy. And I thought, well, if I don't get too emotionally involved, then I can't get hurt again. And what I came to realize was that's really no way to live. I was numbing out that way by detaching myself. I was also numbing myself with alcohol. Now, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I did have a couple of glasses of wine every night with dinner, or while I was making dinner, or a couple of drinks every night. And it was a way of detaching myself from real conversation, detaching myself from real emotion, detaching myself or numbing myself from what was really going on in my head and in my heart. And it was a way for me to disconnect from that little voice in my intuition that was saying, wake up, you're not living your life. And when you numb yourself with anything, and it can be alcohol, food, shopping, anything that creates a distraction from dealing with your real life, when you do that, you miss out on so much. You miss out on the richness of life, because when you're numb on something, when you're high on something else besides life, when you numb out on something besides life, you are actually living a charade, and you are thinking that you're more you when you're this fake person. You're thinking that you're more chatty, you're more interesting, you have much more to say, but you're really just speaking from a place of insecurity and fear, and you're speaking from a place that's not genuinely you, and that's not healthy for anyone. That was an altered version of me and not the real me. I began to feel like I was missing out on real relationship with people. and not really connecting on any kind of emotional level. Everything was just a superficial relationship with me, and I just decided that there must be another way to live. I didn't want to miss out on relationship and true connection with people. So lucky for me, I discovered Brene Brown, and her very first experience that I had with her was I watched her TEDx talk on vulnerability, and it blew my mind. I could connect so completely with everything she said. And after that, I listened to every audio and watched every YouTube video that I could on that Brene Brown had to offer, because she talks about vulnerability, fear, and shame. And that sounds super depressing, but it really is the root of what was fueling my insecurity and my detachment from the world and from the real me. She really encourages people to embrace vulnerability, and she is a research scientist. She's done scads of research on people and what makes them emotionally available or unavailable. And she has come up with a theory that says that that you can't numb your emotion, because when you do that, you numb everything else. You numb joy, you numb being able to see the beautiful part of someone. You numb out completely. You miss all the good emotions when you numb. It's an escape for a moment, but it's not an authentic way to live. You have to let yourself be seen, and you have to love wholeheartedly with no guarantees that anyone is going to love you back. You have to be willing to practice gratitude and joy. You have to believe that you are enough, and you have to be willing to lay yourself open before a person and know that you are enough. And if that person doesn't think that you're enough, that's their problem. But you know that you've been true to yourself and you've been who you really are with someone. And so Brene talks about connection, and connection is the reason that we're here, right? We have fear of connection and fear of disconnection. And so because we're afraid to be disconnected, we do whatever we can to get someone's attention instead of just being our true authentic selves. And if someone sees the real me, I won't be worthy of connection, is what we think. We think, no, the real me is not good enough. It's not pretty enough. It's not thin enough. It's not enough. But you are enough. And once you start believing that, and once you start believing that what you have to offer is enough, and if somebody else doesn't appreciate it, then there are a million other people that will. And at least you presented your true authentic self, and you don't have to live a fake self to keep this person in your life. Vulnerability is having to let yourself be seen, the real you be seen. Have the courage to be imperfect. We have a real problem, at least here in the West, of perfection. We want to present the perfect scenario, the perfect lifestyle, the perfect look, the perfect everything, and no one is perfect. And you have to allow yourself to be imperfect in front of someone that you want to connect with, because otherwise it's a superficial connection and there's nothing real about it, or there's nothing deep about it. Now, a superficial connection may be with just someone that you pass on the street and you say good morning. That's just a passing situation. But you can also pass someone on the street and see the light in them. That's what namaste means, right? I see the light in you. But we have to have the courage to be imperfect and authentic. We have to do that if we want to connect with people. So once I discovered, sort of by accident, by seeing this Brene Brown TEDx talk, once I discovered that this was really the way that I was living, and this video was like unlocking a lock with a key, and she could see inside of me, and she knew exactly the way that I felt, and she knew what I needed to do to correct this in my life. And so the way that I fixed it was, I first of all started listening to everything else Brene Brown had to put out there. She's got all kinds of great books and YouTube videos on connection, with relationships, with people, with vulnerability, shame, grief, guilt, fear. She, and all of her books and her talks are based on research that she's done for like the last 15 years. So it's based in science. So it's a real thing. This just isn't some woo-woo stuff that she came up with. It's super duper based on research. And she talks a lot about her research, system that she uses, and she makes fun of herself because she's a sticky note person and she's got notes everywhere, but she really goes deep and she really figures out what it is that's making us tick. So I started listening to everything I could by Brene Brown, and I also discovered Wayne Dyer about this time. I have a really long commute to work. Really long. I drive about 45 minutes each way to and from work. And so I need podcasts, I need books on tape, I need things I can listen to in the car that make that time fruitful for me instead of just drudgery. And so I discovered Wayne Dyer by accident. And he really helped me address my spiritual side of my life. Not my religious side, but my spiritual side. What is in my soul and what makes my soul sing? And how can I connect with my real authentic soul again? So Brene's telling me over here from the science side of things, hey, you got to open up, you got to lay your heart bare, you got to be you, you've got to be your true authentic self, get your ego out of the way, be vulnerable with people, be real with people. And then Wayne Dyer backed it up. It was just synchronicity. Wayne Dyer backed it up by telling me that I am enough, just like Brene did. I am enough. And he really, really, really helped me with the spiritual side of the scientific thing that Brene was talking about. So Wayne Dyer really had a lot of famous quotes and sayings and stories that he was famous for. He even has a movie that he made and put out. But I just got my hands on anything I could listen to by him. And he says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so I started to look at myself differently. I started to look at myself like I did when I was a kid. When I thought I could do anything, I wasn't burdened by worry. I wasn't burdened by what someone else thought of me. I wasn't burdened by social constraints or ideas of perfectness. I just started to look at myself like I was when I was a kid, and I thought, there must be a way to recapture who I really am at my soul level. He also had another phrase that he said, you'll see it when you believe it. And he was, probably still is somewhere, was really into manifesting the life that you want. And that was a big theme in a lot of the podcasts and things that I listened to by him. And I started to think, I'm going to envision the life that I want. I'm going to envision the me that I want to be, which is the true me. And I'm going to do it so often and so much that it's going to become reality. And that's really what manifesting is. It's believing it, and then you'll see it happen in your life. He also turned me on to Lao Tzu and Rumi. Lao Tzu wrote The Great Way, which is it's the Tao Te Ching, if you're familiar with that name. Translated, it's the Great Way. And he goes through the 88 verses of that in a really profound way. And I listened to that, and that really changed my life. Just prophetic, poetic verses in the Tao Te Ching that really are applicable to life today. He also turned me on to Rumi. Rumi was a 13th century Persian poet who really had a handle on life and love. And Wayne Dyer quotes Rumi quite a bit. And Rumi is famous for a quote that I really think about all the time, and it's a far-reaching quote, and it says, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." And I started to think about that quote and that saying, and to me, that means that I am a part of a universal consciousness and a universal vibration. I am not living singularly on this earth and in this body. I am part of the universe, and the universe is part of me. If you take a drop out of the ocean, it doesn't change the ocean one tiny bit. The ocean goes on, always cyclical, right? It goes on and on and on. But if you take that drop and you dissect it, everything that's in the ocean is in that tiny drop. And so if I'm that tiny drop in that vast ocean. Everything that's in the ocean is in me. And that just blew my mind. And that was when I really started to dive deep into yoga and meditation and really try to search out that inner part of me that quote or that line from Rumi spoke to. And between those couple of writers and speakers, I really started to go deep in my life. So that was the way I began. I know in my original vlog, I told you that I was going to tell you how my journey went, and that was how it started. Brene Brown, Wayne Dyer, Rumi, and Lao Tzu. Kind of an interesting group of personalities, but Brene Brown is from Texas, and she tells it like it is, and she's a scientist. And then the other guys are my spiritual gurus, ancient and modern day. And I really feel like without that initial synchronistic way that I stumbled upon these people, I came across these speeches and these podcasts, and I really just let my intuition guide me on what I was going to listen to for the day, and I happened upon some things that really, really changed my life. So that's how I got started on the spiritual journey back to me, and I couldn't be happier about it. So that's how I got started on the road back to self, and I wish you luck, and I'll be back with some more of my journey on the next vlog. Love and light. Namaste.